Welcome, listeners. I have a special guest this week. Kae Kronthaler-Williams is with me, and she is a global software marketing executive on a mission to empower women in their careers through her work and her new book that's coming out, Not Made for You. Kae works diligently to raise awareness about bias and hostile work culture so every woman can feel supported, respected, and enabled to achieve her full potential. Welcome to the show, Kae.
Thank you so much. Hi, Julie. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, your mission, your purpose statement, whatever we want to call it at the end of your bio, really resonates with me because I often use that phrasing in my work. Everyone deserves to feel seen, heard, and belong
Right,
in all spaces, especially the workplace, which we know is not, sadly, not a reality for most people.
right.
And so, Kay, I really appreciate the work you've done, and I often say, that the workplace wasn't designed well, it was designed for a certain demographic and it's working very well for that
For
demographic.
that demographic, yes, it is working very well. You're right.
It's really built for us. So I love the title. It
Yeah.
really fits this. It wasn't made for us, or trying to make it work for us when it wasn't
Mhm.
built intentionally that way.
Right.
So curious, Kay, why you decided to write the book, what you're hoping to accomplish with the book.
Sure. The reason I wrote the book is, and this has been a long time coming, I've been wanting to talk about this. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be in the form of a book, but I wanted to talk about the experiences I was having in a male-dominated industry, which is the tech industry for me. And I noticed I've been doing this for a long time, and I noticed there's patterns of bias that just kept cropping up for me. And I also mentor other women and hearing about the barriers they're facing and that what I face to achieve a successful career. And so I wanted to illuminate how that those barriers show up for you at work and then provide guidance on how do you address it.
Mhm.
Because I have had a successful career, and I've created strategies that allow me to be successful. So you can work in these industries and be successful and enjoy your career if you employ certain strategies and you start to talk about it. So it's really about starting to name the things that are happening to us when we go to work as women and underserved populations.
Oh, totally. Because a lot of times you feel like you're being gaslit. Like this is just happening to me. The
Yeah.
imposter syndrome we know women are
Right.
kind of born with. It's
Mhm.
reacting to the conditions around you. The signals that like this isn't for me. I don't belong here. No one like me is here. Or people like me don't get to feel heard or fully appreciated. I'm wondering, Kay, like when you talk about naming those experiences, like what are some of the situations that we should be cognizant of and bring those stories to light?
So, for example, I just recently wrote about this. It's called heap eating, right? So, when you have an idea and you voice that idea in a meeting and you get the nod of the head, move on, and then there's a man in the room that says basically the same thing. They repeat what you said, and boy, that idea takes off.
Hmm.
And so that's one example. And what I think as women, some of these are so subtle that we are not recognizing them, and that we have to recognize the ramifications of something that seems so simple. And we can say, all right, well, I'll let that one go. And the reality is, you can't let it go because you're being devalued in that meeting if somebody's taking your ideas, or another one is when you're being spoken over constantly, right?
Hmm.
So now you're being devalued in these rooms. And when it comes time for a promotion, guess who's getting the promotion? The person who isn't being spoken over and who has those great ideas, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's just these are minor examples, but they're so subtle. We have to be aware of them and name them and call them out
Yeah.
when it
Oh,
happens.
a couple of my allies, you might be familiar with the work, The Good Guys and Workplace Allies, Brad Johnson and David Smith, they call it bro appropriations, what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
kind of this category of the heap eating, the not getting credit for our ideas,
Mhm.
being over interrupted. We know women are 3 times more likely to be interrupted. And
Yes,
I think some of these things, like you say, are like so subtle, but it's the cumulative effect of these
that's
microaggressions, of
right.
these non-inclusive behaviors that really take a toll on
Hmm.
women and folks from historically marginalized groups overall. So it's really important that we name these things and we have tools to kind of keep our radar up, to be looking for them proactively so that they don't get kind of more normed and more
Right.
repeated over time. Um,
And they have to be addressed, right?
yeah.
And I'll give you an example. There was a woman that I worked with. We were executives in a company, and anytime they asked her a question, this woman knew her job inside out, had the data to prove it. Like she was just really smart woman. And they would question everything she did. Or if she said something, they'd go ask another guy, like, could they want the confirmation or affirmation from a man? And I
Mhm.
actually spoke to her and said, I think you need to address this with our boss. You need to have the conversation of why it's happening
Yeah.
because you're being devalued and I'm concerned.
Hmm.
And she didn't do it and they let her go.
Yeah. That's the cost of inaction. We lose really talented, good people.
Yes,
Because if you're not recognized here and you can't get the promotion or get the career moves you know you deserve, and then you're going to go elsewhere. And
right,
this is, I think, where the conundrum is with corporate America is they're not feeling enough pain to address these problematic behaviors
right.
because you still have enough people to fulfill the roles, but we know this talent shortage is coming, even with AI, even with unemployment rate ticking up a bit. There will be labor shortages because we're not replacing past
That's
generations
right.
at the same rate we can. So I'm curious what you think about that. Like, what is it going to take for companies to care about these things? Because we've been talking about them for so long. What?
I I actually am hopeful. I think it's because of the labor shortage. So I am hopeful that we will start to look at what's transpiring in these cultures and why people are leaving.
Hmm.
And I also think that employees are pushing back, even after COVID. They're pushing back on long hours and, you know, positions that require all these things you need to do, which is impossible for one person to do.
Hmm.
And I think the way that we move forward is what is now termed human sustainability. It's creating cultures where it's not just about efficiency anymore and performance. It's about this retention of employees and creating cultures where it's not just getting through the day to day. We're not just surviving. We want to be able to thrive in these cultures and not get burnt out.
Yeah.
So, and I think I've seen it in my teams and in cultures that I've worked in and I think it's younger generations, they are pushing back. They want to understand that there's a purpose, what that bigger purpose is, and that the human capital is part of the equation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It always has.
We're measuring the culture like a business outcome as we are a revenue.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think there's a reckoning that's going to
Yeah.
happen. I really do.
Yeah. Two things you said there that really stuck out to me. One, future generations. Part of me is like, we keep kicking this can down the road to future generations that are inheriting problems they didn't create. But in my work, I spend a lot of time teaching at the university, and younger men in particular, younger white men, give me so much hope. Granted that they're not a
Mhm.
monolith, there's a lot of
Right.
variation within that demographic. So I totally get that.
Sure.
But as far as we consider dominant group identities, white, straight, males,
Hmm.
cisgender, bodied, etc., they're saying things that I didn't hear my peers say when I was in my 20s.
Right.
And they're expressing vulnerability and talking about emotions and these cultural issues like burnout and toxicity. And I feel like my generation kind of played the game. Like, all right, this is the game, we'll play it. We kind of gave up because there were so many baby boomers that were like, no, we're not going to
Yeah.
change this for you.
We just moved on. We accepted it and moved on. And I think these generations are not. And I love that what you're saying, because I think young white men, we need allies.
Hmm.
right? Women, if we're talking about women, but we need allies in these rooms, and they're the ones that can be great allies. When a man speaks up against something he sees that happens to a woman, boy, it carries a lot of weight. It shouldn't, but it does, and we need them,
Yeah, they're heard
right?
differently because it doesn't
Yes,
it doesn't seem like they're going to benefit directly from
right,
their, but they do. I
right,
mean, how power grows is sharing your power, and it's
right.
really counterintuitive, but that's a great way to share your power. It's like, hey,
Hmm.
she was talking, let's go back to her. Or like,
Yes,
hey, I noticed something earlier that was a great
yeah,
idea. Like, let's make sure she shares it. Or she was still talking. You don't have to be rude. You can
right.
just clearly call
Yeah, you
people in.
don't have to be rude. You can be professional. You can be calm. And I talk a lot about that in my book. You need to be professional and calm. But having allies in the room, even when you're not in the room, is so critical. And so I do see that hope as well. And there were marches in, 2017, and we saw men in those marches with their partners, their female
Mm-hmm.
partners. And that gave me great hope, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And we saw it again in 22 and
Mhm.
23. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is hope for future generations, and I'm looking to young people to help us. They'll have
Yes,
a lot more power with labor shortages than past generations too. So I
right.
hope they're heard in ways that past generations were not. You said another thing, Kay, earlier about culture and measuring it like a business outcome, like revenue and profit and business metrics. I'm so curious if you have thoughts on workplace culture and how we quantify it, how we measure it, or like even just some attributes that you would want to look for to measure success of a workplace culture.
Yeah, I mean it can't it has to be tangible. You have to turn it into something tangible to measure, I think. But one of it, I mean, obviously the retention rate is a big one, right?
Hmm.
Because we know the main drivers of people leaving is burnout, not feeling supported or heard, and lack of career development or
Yep.
career growth. Those are the reasons people leave. And so those are the things you have to focus on from a cultural perspective. I mean, if you're job hunting and you look at these job descriptions, nobody could get that job done in a year or even, and we're trying to get them to do it on a daily basis. So it's really auditing work loads and making sure they match with the job in a way that doesn't cause burnout. Like that, I think these are things that those are measurements you can look at. Are
Yeah.
we having the wrong expectations or too high expectations of workload for a particular position? I think
Hmm.
that's one area. Um,
Well, and we know that women are more likely to get non-promotable tasks, more admin work, which
right.
my hope for the future is AI can automate some of this admin work so that no one has to do it, let alone the lion's share falling on women in historically marginalized groups. But I like what you're saying about workload. I hadn't thought about it that way. And retention and attraction, having key success metrics for your culture. And then if you're measuring those things that should be like lagging indicators of the behaviors and meetings and some of the things you're talking about with not made for you, then hopefully there's some accountability there. What I see a lot of times is that the middle manager, I think is like a huge part of the employee experience. And
Mhm.
they're kind of stuck in the old way. And the senior leadership's like, let's go here. And middle management's like stuck in the middle between frontline employees
Yes.
and senior leaders. And they're trying to translate it and they don't have the tools. So like I wonder what you would want managers to do differently to shift those business outcomes.
First of all, I think we need to support the managers better. That's a tough job, right? To be a middle manager. And we don't provide the right tools and guidance for them around empathy, leading with empathy, understanding how to provide constructive feedback so
Hmm.
people are doing well, right? Understanding, looking and auditing workloads and understanding how to do that and what's important and what isn't important. So I think they need training,
Hmm.
right? To help them build the right types of departments because you're building a culture on a daily basis, right? It happens daily in small steps. And managers can do that, but they need the tools to be able to do that and the space to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And creating diverse work groups, right? And understanding that diverse thought provides better outcomes and decisions for the company.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Like they need tools, they need information, they need training, they need just in time resources. I was just on a call with a client and like, we actually have a pretty diverse team in certain parts of our organization, which is usually pretty common, especially at the front lines, maybe. But she said the crux of it is she'll have white men come to her and say, I don't know how to give feedback to a young black woman on my team. Should I even do it? Right. And it's like,
Right.
what? Like, if that's your
Yes.
job, right? But there's a
Yes.
disconnect there. And I don't think they're trying to be problematic when they say that. I think there's a fear, a hesitance of I don't want to screw this up and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
offend the person or come off a certain way. And so it's just better to withhold or delegate that. So what I took from that is like things like a situation behavior impact feedback model would be really helpful for that person so that they can structure their feedback in a logical behavior oriented way
Right.
instead of a defensive creating kind of personal way. Or how to coach. Like, I think that's one of the best skills that a manager can learn is just how to get out of the way and coach your employee to success so that you don't
Yes,
have to get involved in all of their problems. Like,
that's right.
no one wants those emails or those like texts or emergency phone calls. Like, I don't know what to do. And when you coach somebody, you're helping them self-discover their path forward. So those are two of the tools I know I'm hearing a lot back right now, kind of oldie but goodie leadership skills that middle managers still are just woefully not exposed to, or it's not reinforced, or it's not rewarded. To your
No, and
point,
I think not it's not rewarded is a big issue, right? We have to reward that it, and that's part of this
yeah.
whole human sustainability, this type of culture is what do we reward? Yes, we reward for goals and quotas and pipeline, but we also reward for somebody who is trying to learn a new skill. We
Mm,
reward for the culture makers. You know how there's somebody in your team who's just the perfect person to like really help build the culture. Reward them, give them that recognition. And for the, people who have empathy on teams and they know how to lead with empathy, reward those behaviors, right? And
mhm.
make it visible, the recognition visible.
Yeah,
Those are the things that are going to help shape these cultures and these departments. And we're not giving, a lot of managers come into these roles. Some of them shouldn't be managers, right? But that's their way up. And that's another part of this, right? Create these dual career paths. Like you don't have the only path to succeed shouldn't be managing teams. You can
yeah,
be an expert in your field and you should still be able to move up
yeah,
without having to manage, right? Because
yeah,
so that's a problem. We put people in who shouldn't be managers, and then we have people who are managers who get no guidance on how to manage. It doesn't
yeah.
come natural to everybody, right?
No,
And it takes time. I was probably a horrible manager when I first started. It takes time to be a great leader, right?
yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, the transition from manager to leader alone
Yeah.
is just same. I was really young and inexperienced and didn't have any of these tools and was just trial and erroring it. And I wish I'd had access to books like yours and tools like the ones I thankfully get to teach leaders now. Yeah, you're reminding me it's not just the what, the performance, it's the how you got the performance. And
Right.
if I had one wish for corporate America, we would balance performance reviews and succession planning and talent management processes with a what and how. Like, hey, you could have gotten an amazing hit your sales quota, exceeded it by 50% even, but how you did it. Like, what if you created like a toxicity
That's right.
around you that
Exactly.
made everyone else not be able to perform? That's going to cost way more than
Yes.
the extra you got.
Right.
Sometimes our thinking is a little short-sighted. We don't think about the
We
whole
don't,
picture.
we don't. That's a great example. And I've seen that happen time and time again, where, especially from a sales perspective, they're rewarded sometimes for that behavior, right? This kind of not selfish, but somewhat selfish behavior. And that's how they perform well. But they can burn down other departments in the process. Uh,
Hmm.
and they are creating a toxic work environment. And then you're losing. some great performers in other departments that support sales, for example, or
Yeah.
whatever department it is, right?
Yeah, the operations person that has to execute on the sale that
Yes.
then they may not have
Right.
had input on it or know
Yeah.
what success looks like. Yeah. Yeah, lots of opportunity there, Kay. I wonder, back to the book, Not Made for You, if you had like one wish for readers or for organizations, like one thing they took from the book, like what would that be?
For organizations, it's that women have a very different experience at work than men do.
Hmm.
That they need to understand that this is happening because a lot of them aren't aware. If they're not women, they're not aware of that. And so I want that awareness. And for readers, it's that you're not alone. It's happening to a lot of us, but there are strategies to stay in the companies that you like or the industry that you like and thrive and enjoy it. There are strategies to do that.
Hmm. Yeah, you're not alone, and there are tools that can help. So love that you made this book. I love the title. I love, not only can this help organizations, but also individual women and folks really from historically marginalized groups that
Mhm.
this was not built for you with you in mind. And
Right.
how do you navigate it? And we need our allies now more
Uh,
than ever.
yes, we do need our allies.
Kay, how can people follow your work and get your book?
So they can go to Kae Williams.com. And that's my website. And in there, there's also the links to my social media for LinkedIn, Substack, and Instagram.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, the book is coming out soon, and we'll be sure to link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much for your amazing work. I'm so thankful.
Thank you. What a wonderful conversation. Thanks, Julie. I really appreciate it.